Hi, welcome back. I am here with Louis Schwartzberg. Thanks for joining us in the studio today. Louis, first of all, tell me how your connection to Telluride and what you're doing here, how long you've been around.
Well, first time I came to Telluride in 1986, I was shooting some gorgeous landscapes for a Coors commercial. I did a sunrise on Wilson Peak, and they ended up using that as the background for their logo for several years, and it also became the image on the Coors Light can.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, I fell in love with Telluride because of its extraordinary beauty and the culture of this town.
Yeah.
And I've been coming back to mountain film at least 5 or 6 times. America's Heart and Soul was a feature film. There was a finalist here, as was Wings of Life,
Great.
which was a film about pollinators.
Well, tell me a little bit about your work.
Well, I love to make the invisible visible in my nature cinematography and filmmaking. So I've done films about, pollinators, about flowers, 3D IMAX film called Mysteries of the Unseen Worlds, where I film things that are either too fast, too vast, too slow for the human eye to see. And
how do you go about capturing these?
Well, I sometimes have to invent the technology.
Nice.
I was one of the first people to use digital cameras that were used by the military for doing slow motion on bombs exploding.
Oh, wow.
To shoot hummingbirds. So we shoot at 1,000 frames per second, so you can actually notice that a hummingbird can actually float in midair.
Oh, wow.
So my joy in life is opening up people's minds and changing their worldview by realizing that our POV, point of view, is limited. The human point of view has a certain frame rate or metabolic rate. If you can look at life from the point of view of a flower, which is moving, or a hummingbird, which is too fast for you to see, then I think it expands your horizons.
Certainly. How do you choose your locations for your different projects?
Well, I guess primarily what inspires me is the key ingredient. And it depends on the story that I'm telling. Like with pollinators, for example, we went to Panama, and because they had extraordinary hummingbirds. The bats were in Mexico, and so the story kind of drives the location.
Is it a challenge getting your equipment to some of these places?
Definitely. When we shot the monarch butterflies in Mexico, that was at 14,000 feet elevation.
Oh, wow.
This is where the monarchs winter, between November to February. And it's an amazing story. Millions of butterflies gather, and then they take off, let's say in February, March, and they reproduce along the way. The great-grandchildren of these monarchs fly all the way from Canada back to these same 2 acres in the highlands of Mexico. And when you think about A, how do they navigate? B, how does the DNA incorporate that information?
Such a long distance for such a little organism.
It's the longest migration of any butterfly on Earth. Sadly, they're on the verge of being declared on the endangered species list because of Monsanto's use of neonicotinoid pesticides, which they feed upon on milkweed as they go through the Midwest.
Oh, goodness.
So the United States is responsible for the decimation of the monarch butterflies. It's not the United States, the people of the United States, it's the government that allows Monsanto. Neonicotinoids have been banned in Europe.
Oh, interesting.
They should be banned in America.
Wow. Well, what is your most recent project?
Well, my most recent project, which has been going on for 13 years, I've been doing a film on mushrooms. Well, not on mushrooms, about mushrooms.
Okay.
Because I was on mushrooms, I'd probably be done. But I'm here at the Mushroom Film Festival, and they are part of my movie. And I showed a couple of sequences from the film to the tribe so they could enjoy the experience. And mushrooms are an extraordinary story. They can heal you, they can feed you, clean up an oil spill, make soil.
There's some that can break down plastic too, right?
Right, break down plastic, and maybe the greatest natural solution for climate change.
Oh, wow.
Because in combination with plants and trees, plants and trees take in carbon dioxide, they release oxygen into the atmosphere at the leaf, which we get to breathe. But then the carbon they found out is they traced it with carbon isotopes all the way down the trunk of a tree into the roots, and then they are exchanged for nutrients with the mycelium in this incredible underground network. It's like an internet under the ground. It's a shared economy where ecosystems can learn how to flourish.
Wow.
In addition to all that, too, they also can shift your consciousness. And the recent trials at Johns Hopkins with psilocybin, with cancer patients, people with PTSD, it eliminates suffering because when you have an immersive, transformational, transcendental experience, you lose your fear of dying. And you really can feel the fact that it's all connected.
And it seems there's been more research on that recently.
A lot. It was 2 days ago on CBS Morning, there was a 2-minute sequence. Like, can you believe it?
Wow.
Mainstream television did a story about microdosing.
Incredible. So going back to locations, where have you been where did you film this movie? I mean, over 13 years, lots of different places.
Yeah, a lot of places. British Columbia, we followed Paul Stamets and his journey. He's one of the key mycologists in our film. My gosh, it's been everywhere. A lot of it is in my studio. We do a lot of time lapse of mushrooms growing.
That's what I was going to ask you. Since you're saying you slow things down or speed them up, is this one you're speeding up?
Yeah. So we do a lot of studio work. But yeah, I mean, everywhere from New York to Telluride to LA to British Columbia, Washington State.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, when can we expect to see your new film out?
Not sure yet. I suggest people go to movingart.com
All right.
or fantasticfungi.com.
Okay.
And we'll keep the audience updated on the latest news we have on the release.
Well, super. So before we go, I wanted to ask you about a film you shot with one of our local characters here, Rowdy. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Rowdy is a symbol of the last American cowboy. I did a film called America's Heart and Soul. It's a film about remarkable but ordinary people. And so we shot like a jazz musician in New Orleans, bike messenger in New York, a rug weaver in Appalachia, which was one of the key films that Mountain Film would take on tour. But Rowdy was part of, I think, the story or the character of my movie. Rowdy represents, I think, the American character and freedom. I love telling stories about people who've overcome adversity, but still have a lot of joy and hope in their life. So, Rowdy symbolizes a character who, gave up drinking in order to have more freedom. And the shots of him riding his horseback, through the aspen trees, as well as riding into the Sheraton bar, and his love of horses, and the fact that he can talk.
Oh, yeah.
As we all know. And so he is like one of my dearest friends.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for coming in today, Louis. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll take a retro ride back to some years ago for a Telluride Film Festival award ceremony honoring Peter O'Toole.